Hey guys, it's me Jake from JakeMan21642. Today I've got a video for you of the newest addition to my fleet. This is my 1986 Toyota MR2 GT. This is the AW11 chassis, and this is also the Mark 1A, so this is one of the earlier build models. So long story short with this car, I was going over to my parents' house one Sunday. This thing has lived in their neighborhood for as long as I can remember. I mean, I grew up driving by and looking at this car, and I'd pass by it and I noticed a for sale sign sitting up in the back window and decided to kind of stop, look at it, and I can tell you right now, I know it already looks rough. I really have not done that much to this car. I actually just got it back from the shop, and I'll get to why in a minute. But I haven't even put a coat of wax on it yet. This is just from washing it, kind of the way it looks. But long story short, I looked at it. Next day, I decided to call the guy, stop by, look at it, and yeah, I came home with it. So I got the car for what I feel like was a really, really good deal, considering once I get it cleaned up, what I could potentially sell it for. But honestly, I plan on keeping this thing for a while. This is probably my favorite car I've already... this is already probably my favorite car I've ever bought, and I've only driven it for about 2 days now. So the story I basically got was they bought the car, I believe in 1990 is what he said, and it was their son's originally. He drove it throughout high school and through college. He went to Virginia Tech, so this car spent some time up there in the mountains. And then when he came back, the parents ended up with it. I guess he just left it at their house and they started driving it. And I mean, this was literally, up until when I bought it, old man drove it to church choir. That's it. He said that's the only time it would move was when he would drive it to choir practice. But the car needed a new clutch. The throwout bearing was pretty much gone. It had the original clutch, or what I at least believe was the original or a very old clutch at 172,000 miles. So I had the clutch replaced while it was in the shop. Had them go ahead and do the timing belt too, just because it had never been done, or at least the people I bought it from had never been done. From what I can tell, see, Carfax and AutoCheck are kind of weird when you look at them for a car this old. So AutoCheck just shows one owner. It says the car's lived in Virginia since 1993. But at the first owner, it also says it had 90,000 miles. So what I think is, I Carfaxed it. Says it lived in Texas until 1990. Makes sense. That's when he said they bought it. And they've had it since then. So I would say this is pretty much a one owner. I mean, this is definitely one of the cleanest, especially these early build ones like this, MR2s, that, I mean, I can't remember the last time I even saw another one of these, especially one that wasn't clapped out. But yeah, like I said, I haven't really even done that much to it. Had that work done, so clutch, timing belt, they did. A lot of gaskets, oil pan gasket. It's an old Toyota. It's probably still going to leak oil, even though after they replaced all of that. But otherwise, they did a lot of front suspension work. They had to rebuild one of the brake calipers. Needs pads and rotors really bad, just like my other two cars. But I'm just going to do those myself. That's easy. But up front, got new control arms, new ball joints, new tie rods. It needs new shocks all the way around. That's something I can do myself. And I want to do a lot of work on this car myself, just for something as major as the clutch and timing belt. I figured I would have a professional shop take care of it. Otherwise, outside, I don't think it's been in a major accident, but it definitely has been in an accident because this headlight is red inside. Same goes for this fender. And you can just see it's had... I actually, after I bought it, when I was cleaning it out, found a Mako ticket inside. And you can definitely tell it was a Mako paint job. There's a lot of hard water stains as well, but I think I'll be able to clean the paint up pretty good at least. And then, of course, it being a Virginia and Texas car, do have a little bit of clear coat peel. This isn't that bad. If I blow a lot of the peel off with the power washer, it'll be even. But I'm kind of thinking about either wrapping or just plasti dipping from here up. Honestly, I run a used car department. I have connections. I really like this car that I honestly may sink a paint job into it. But I don't know. Otherwise, the paint's not that bad for how old this car was. And also, too, it's been a city car its entire life. This thing has been parked on the street, at least for the 23 years that I've been looking at it. Definitely would say that this is the car's good side, though. Also, too, I know it is missing a mud flap up front. I have that. It's in the trunk. Outside, otherwise, it is riding on what is literally a brand new set of Mastercraft tires. which kind of makes me sad because they're brand new tires, but they're cheapo Walmart tier tires. Thing that sucks though is I love these wheels, seriously. They're so 80s. They're so period correct. They look so good on the car, but they're 185/60 14s. So you can see they're skinny little bicycle tires. So I'm definitely gonna run these for a while. Eventually, once I get the suspension refreshed, I guess I'll probably end up getting a set, something kind of period correct for the car, and a nice set of sticky summer tires. But honestly, I'm impressed. These aren't terrible, and I mean, I'm not lying. They're literally brand new tires. I have the receipt inside too. Even though these are cheapo Walmart tier tires, as I said, they actually have them installed at a really expensive and really reputable tire shop in my area. So they cared about this car. Even though they barely moved it, they had like 4 other cars. They still really did take care of it. I'll go ahead and show you since we're around back. Well, I will show you too. I mean, anyone out there saying that they have a rust-free MR2 is lying. But especially for a East Coast car, I think this really is about as rust-free as you can get. I know I see a lot of these online where they're all rotted out down below, but I'll show you. I mean, it's got a little bit of typical, like, where stuff would get stuck up behind the mud flap. But otherwise, underneath, oh, it is a bit dark. But it's not too bad. I mean, once again, all just little tiny spots like that around it. But I mean, I see these online in the group, so they're all rotted out down here. Underneath, the exhaust has been replaced, but it does leak, and there are some nasty welds right here. I know I'm kind of picking the car apart, but these are all things I plan on improving. You can see underneath, the rust isn't bad. There's definitely worse out there in terms of MR2s. Show you to the trunk. Go ahead and pop it. I love this. This is one of my favorite parts of the car, is the satisfying, all the old Toyotas do this. Listen to the sound it makes when you open this. Here's some ASMR. Show you again. That is some 80s Japanese build quality right there. But as you can see in the trunk, it actually is insanely clean, and it honestly is a usable trunk too. But you can see a decent amount of space. Came with some spare parts, a very, very high quality oil filter that I do not plan on using. Some cheapo auto light plug wires. I actually ordered some NGKs last night. As I said, I have the mud flap that fell off. Oh, I forgot, are these new? No, these are old. Ordered wiper blades for it too. And I do have the other license plate. When I bought the car, the plates had been on it for so long that the one on the front, the screws just completely rusted to the car. It's an antique. I'm just gonna run it with no front plate. I mean, who really cares? Bumper too has some dents in it, but I think I can get a heat gun and get a lot of this out. Also too, I do have a replacement for this badge. It's faded. Just waiting to put it on until I can actually do some paint correction. Like most of these cars, the front trunk release or frunk release has broken. So to release it, there's just a little custom rigged lever down here. Pull it, it will pop it. Then you can lift it up. It's kind of a two-hand job. But lift it up, it's just like a normal hood release. It's on a Toyo tire. But you can see jack, all that. The definitely original radiator. Washer tank. All that. I mean, you can see it is a Southern car, so a lot of the bolts and things like that. Very, very little surface rust. And it's like a new Porsche. Once you close it, you do have to make sure it clicks down into place. We'll go ahead 10 minutes into the video and step inside the car. Like I said, there will be plenty of videos of this car, so I don't want this one to drag on for too long. Inside, this is really what sold me on the car, is this blue interior and the shape that it is in. You can see these floor mats, already added these. I bought them online. They are reproductions, but very nice. This actually did come with the original mats. They're just, obviously being a manual transmission and this old, it had a hole completely worn through it. But otherwise, you can see the two-tone blue cloth seats, these rad 80s headrests. Oh, and of course, too, I forgot to mention, speaking of rad 80s things, pop-up headlights. I've never owned a car with pop-ups, and I'm so happy. There's no better driving experience than looking out over those pop-ups at night. Anyway, stepping inside, you do have a little bit of storage. Behind the seat, you can see I have some detailing stuff. And this one does have these very period correct MTX kicker speakers installed. Actually still do work too, and they don't sound half bad. But lean that back. Otherwise though, blue cloth on the door. Thankfully this is a manual window, manual lock one, because none of that would work otherwise. Go ahead and start it. And that wonderful buzzer. You can hear the little 4AGE. And I had never driven a car with this engine until I bought it, and I have to say, it does not feel like a 33-year-old engine. Even with 173,000 miles, this car runs and drives perfect. It's definitely the most Japanese car I've owned. But yeah, it has this awful steering wheel cover installed. The wheel underneath is disintegrating. There's no reason to take the steering wheel cover off or even try to recover this wheel. I found new ones online, but they're not leather wrapped, which this one is, and I'd really prefer to keep. The car does have no power steering. Obviously, you don't need it in something like this, but no power steering. So I kind of like the old school big steering wheel, but also I'm kind of thinking about throwing in a nice like Nardi wheel or something like that. So I don't know. I've always kind of been a stock guy, so I probably will just go with another one of these. They're not too hard to find on eBay, and I've got an interior guy at work who could probably leather wrap it, so I'll see about that. Anyway, over here you have the pop-up headlight controls. Seriously, one of my favorite parts of the car. They do take a second to go down if you cut them off, but it's just amazing. And also, too, it has the awesome, nice green, old-school 80s interior lighting. So, as you can see over here, window crank, obviously, your manual locks, all that. Air vent up top, and then the speakers for the stereo, which amazingly do, or at least this one does. That one does sometimes, but it does have the original speakers. Down here, power mirror controls, which I could not believe a 86 Toyota had. Also, typical Toyota of this era, you have the crotch cooler. Not one, but two crotch vents down here. Otherwise, your bright controls on the stalk, and turn signals, obviously. Defroster there, and then hazards. Your brightness controls, and then right here, which once again I was amazed that an 86 Toyota has this, cruise control. And it works. It works perfect. Up here you have wiper controls, all that. Also too, I did forget to mention with the headlights, if one happened to break, or say you don't want them to freeze and get stuck or anything like that, if you push and then turn, it will cut the headlights off, but it will leave them popped up. Over here, as I mentioned, wiper controls. Up top is the clock. This thing, yeah, there you go. It kind of has a mind of its own. It also resets. I think there's a battery or a fuse somewhere that needs to be replaced related to it. One of my 93 Accord did a very similar thing, but you do have the clock right there. Another air vent. Gauges too, very, very typical 80s. You have your battery voltometer, your fuel gauge, oil pressure up there, and then engine temperature. Obviously, tachometer and speedometer. You can see this one, I bought it with 172.8 and some change, and I've put about 200 miles on it over the last couple days. Actually close to 300 at this point, but it's been very, very fun. Around here, you have all of your climate controls. This one does have air conditioning. You can feel the compressor trying to kick on, so it just needs to be charged, but it also still has R12 in it. I'm honestly not sure if I'm going to fix it. I don't think I'll ever be driving this car and desire air conditioning. I've got two other cars with working AC if I need that. Also, too, the thing is, this car would be so slow and miserable with the air conditioning on. I can only imagine. But you do have a power outlet there that does work. And otherwise, I mean, the heater, HVAC controls, all that work fine, too. Down here, this one does have a very, very period correct Sony tape deck, which amazingly does still work. You've got the kickers behind the seats, as I mentioned. But yeah, still works perfect. And I'll even show you, because of course I'm that much of a hipster, that I got my 80s cassettes in my 80s car. Even the cassette player portion works perfectly fine. So yeah, I really do want to keep... I really do want to keep this. It's very period correct. As you can see, the screen's a little messed up, but it works. Coming out of all of these crappy, awful speakers, it actually doesn't sound half bad, so it's going to be one of my next projects is get some decent speakers in here. I also do have a taped aux adapter, which actually, once again, does not sound that bad. So I want to at least leave this for now. This is actually a pretty nice tape deck for back in the day. It's got a lot of nice features. I'm not going to go into too much detail on because I doubt I have many audio files on my channel. But as you can see too, it's the total 80s one with the bar that pulls out and you can actually remove it from the dashboard. So, you know, no one will steal your sweet Sony cassette deck. Right here, ashtray. Obviously, it's an 86. Good luck finding a car from this era that hasn't been smoked in, honestly. Back here, the shifter with its nasty looking shift boot. I'm trying to find one of these online that isn't $90, but there are replacement ones out there that are actual Toyota OEM parts. Otherwise, though, this is probably, ignore the shift boot though, it's not as nasty to drive as it looks. This is probably my favorite manual transmission I've ever felt, especially out of all the vehicles I've owned, this is the best one. First of all, the way you sit in this car and the way it falls to hand. But it's just such a satisfying clicky. It's notchy, but in a good way. In reverse, typical Japanese. All the way over and back. But this transmission is amazing. Like I said, right here you do have the parking brake. Surprisingly works like better than most 5-year-old cars I get in. Armrest back here. This is another thing I need to order online. There's replacement ones out there, but it's a little crushed. Back here, storage. Some of them actually, I think it was an option. You had a little thing your cassettes would actually click into, and you can press it, and you can actually press on them and it's spring loaded and they'll pop out. But got this little change thing here people added to it. Then up top, more storage. I keep all my nice 80s MR2 jams. Seats, they're actually very comfortable. They are tiny and they are narrow, but they're 80s velour seats. They're so soft and so comfortable. Up top, headrests, as I showed, are adjustable. Up top, manually dimming mirror, of course. No, actually, no, you do have a vanity mirror on the passenger side. It's surprising. Right here, I love this. Yeah, you can tell this car's been around. It's some old school Virginia Tech parking passes. Let me just leave those in there because I feel like it's fitting to the car. Sunroof, this one, I believe it was the next year after this one in 87, you could get the T-tops. This one luckily does have the sunroof. It is the factory one, manual of course. And I haven't tried it yet, but apparently you can actually remove the entire sunroof. I believe it's not tinted. I believe at one point it was, and the tint has just worn off, I guess. But we'll go ahead and step out. Move my water bottle so we can get in on the passenger side. Of course, being an 80s car, no cup holders, you kind of just have to make do. I found that's a good spot for my water bottle. Lock the door as well. So I'll show you, obviously being an MR2 is mid-engine, which I think is also why most of the shops that I tried to get in touch with for a clutch job just completely blew me off. But back here, this does have Toyota's 1.6 liter, 16 valve, 4AGE. It is a bit ratchet looking under here right now. I have not even touched under the hood. But like I said, new clutch, new timing belt, all the seals have been replaced. Otherwise, the people I bought it from, they said they basically just did all the typical maintenance and the car's never let them down. But yeah, I'm definitely going to get all this cleaned up. I've got new plugs, plug wires, cap and rotor, radiator cap just to be safe. All that on the way already. And like I said too, my daily driver has 300 horsepower. And I'm honestly not disappointed at all driving this car around. It is so much fun. You can see too, I did go for the yellow Virginia antique plates. If you see my 240, I have the black ones, but I kind of felt like those fit this car. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's basically all I have to say for now. Plenty of videos will be coming on this car. I plan on doing a ton of work to it. This car's not going anywhere anytime soon. For those of you wondering, I do still have my 240. I did finally sell the 71 Volkswagen Beetle. I'm not going to go into details, but it's got a good home. That car was too far gone for me to deal with. I had my fun with it, but time to move on to things like this. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Any questions, comments, anything like that, drop them down below. Sorry if this video, if I left anything out, which I'm sure I did, and if it was a little rush. I'm kind of running out of daylight, but I still really wanted to get a video of this car up. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.